So our topic for today is we are discussing the climatic factor temperature, and the topic under this is distribution of plants, how the plant distribution is affected on the basis of temperature. It has been seen that with increase in height, so when we are talking about altitude, with increase in height the temperature decreases. And what is the correlation? With every 300 feet height the 10 degree Fahrenheit temperature decreases. So that is why the hilly areas, or those which are at the higher altitudes, they are colder as compared to plains. Now, if we see the relationship with the temperature, then as you can see, when the temperature is very low, less than 7 degrees Celsius, we see the plants type growing there is Arctic type, and we observe severe winters and always snow is present in those areas. In the previous lecture, I showed you the photographs of such areas. Then we have the temperate plants. They are found when the temperature range is 7 to 17 degrees Celsius. So here proper winters are there, but occasionally there is snowfall. Okay. Then there is subtropical region. So where subtropical plants are found and the temperature range is 17 to 24 degrees Celsius. It can go slightly beyond 24 as well. And here mild winters are present. And in the tropical areas, we find tropical plants where the temperature is throughout year more than 24 degrees Celsius and no winters are observed at all. So on the basis of temperature, the weather is getting affected, and on the basis of that weather, the plant distribution is affected. So this is how temperature is correlated with the distribution of plants. Now you can see here we are discussing along the latitude and along the altitude. So when you observe the altitude in the tropical region, we see that here the tropical kind of the plants, they are found because in this region the temperature is very high and there is high humidity as well. So when you move along the altitude, then we have subtropical regions where the deciduous forests they are found. Then there is a temperate region where coniferous forests are growing, and most of the time we have a tree line here. Tree line, that is a specific geographical region beyond which the trees don't exist. Whenever you visit some hilly places, do look at the far-flung hills. You will yourself observe that after a certain line the trees are not visible. That is called tree line. They are not visible means they are not available beyond that area. We have only herbs, shrubs, lichens, mosses, the small plants beyond that area, because here the temperature is decreasing, and as we approach towards the poles, we have alpine regions which are throughout the year covered with the ice, with snow. So in these regions we have just small communities like lichens, mosses, herbs, shrubs, etc. So that is how along the altitude the temperature is decreasing, right, and the plant community is changing. Now when we talk about the latitude, so along latitude from the tropics, when we start moving towards pole, it may be towards the northern hemisphere. I hope you all are aware about a little bit of geography. We have equator here, then there is a northern hemisphere, and we have southern hemisphere. So these are the pole areas, and I'm drawing it straight, it's slightly oblique. Okay, so when we are talking about this area here, the tropical forests are available. Slightly above this we have the subtropical one. Then there is a temperate range where temperature is even lesser, and then we will observe the tundra region, and finally the polar areas are observed. So accordingly there will be distribution, same kind of the plants, they will be observed along latitude as well as along altitude. Okay, now related to temperature factor, we have Schimper's first law. You have to memorize it. It states that the general type of vegetation is not related to temperature. The type of flora of a particular region is determined by it. Means what? See, we take example of this figure. The general type of vegetation, if I am saying temperate area, and I am saying it is having coniferous forest. This is a general comment. Coniferous forest, I am not giving any kind of the description that with altitude the plants are changing further. Within the same range there will be multiple strata. Okay, few plants which are found at the lower altitudes in this region, few at the higher always. So it says that the general vegetation is not affected by temperature. It is the particular species of that area which are affected by temperature. So within this temperate range itself, the temperature will be affecting in a way that you will have the layers of different plants within this region. Okay, so we'll read it again. The general type of vegetation is not related to temperature. The type of flora of a particular region is determined by it. So when we are talking about a specific area, what kind of flora is existing there, what is the species richness, or whenever we prepare inventory, then this is counted, then it is related to the temperature. We will observe a relationship. Okay, for example, when we are talking about Himalayas, we have different altitudes, and along those altitudes the distribution of different species observed that will vary. As a broad category, I will say Himalayan vegetation, right? But when I go there, with respect to the altitude, I will observe that towards the lower altitudes, we see mixed deciduous forest. There are sal, there are trees of Butea monosperma, Delbergia, which is called Shisham, Syzygium, which is Jamun. So these are present towards the lower altitudes. But when I move slightly upper, towards the upper altitude, I see there we find mixed coniferous trees, like there are Pinus, Cedrus, Picea. There again there is stratification. Pinus will be towards the lower altitude, Cedrus you find towards the higher one. So this is how the temperature, with every change in temperature with the altitude, the type of vegetation in that area changes. Okay, so this is what is called Schimper's first law. Okay, now we have another concept of thermal stratification. Now, what is thermal stratification? Thermal means effect of temperature. That results in formation of strata. It is applicable to terrestrial lands as well as to the aquatic lands. So the temperature changes in different horizontal layers of a forest, that means the terrestrial land or water body. They are collectively, those temperature changes, they are called thermal stratification. Okay. Now in the forest areas, this is not much evident. Why? Because you all know that forest, it has a canopy of the tall trees and it provides a kind of blanket effect. So because blanket effect means it is going to cover all the underlying plants. So that's why the overall variation along with the temperature, that is not much apparent in that area, because the topmost community, the canopy layer, is going to serve as a blanket for that area. So we don't observe much of the thermal stratification. It is there, it do exist, but it is not very evident. But as if we want to see it clearly, then we should observe a water body. In a water body, there is no blanket effect directly over the oceans or the rivers. The sun rays, they are falling, and because of that, lot of temperature variation is there along different layers. So we can observe it there very clearly. So what three strata are observed? They are epilimnion, hypolimnion and mesolimnion. What is epilimnion? Epi means over, means it is the uppermost stratum which is exposed to solar radiation. So because directly the rays are falling over that, it means during daytime this layer will remain warm. But at night, when sunset has happened and onwards, when night is there, then the water is going to lose that heat, and water loses heat slowly, but that layer will become cooler. Then the lowermost is called hypolimnion. This is the one which is actually towards the bottom of the ocean, towards the bottom of the water body. So this is a basal strata, and here the solar radiation doesn't reach. So the water will remain cool always, and because of that, since water temperature is not changing, so there is no circulation of water. In between these two, we have mesolimnion. Meso means middle. So mesolimnion means where it is, limnion word is for light. Okay, so here light is reaching, but that is not of very high intensity as it was the case for epilimnion. So temperature changes occur. Okay, because light is reaching there, so water is getting heated up. So what will happen is that the transition zone where the temperature changes occur, its middle part, okay, if I am talking about this is a water body and this is a layer of the mesolimnion, its middle part, because lower one is in contact with hypolimnion and that is a cold water, upper one is epilimnion and that is a hot water, and slightly partial light is reaching to this layer also. So here the center one region of the mesolimnion where maximum temperature change is observed, this region is called thermocline. What is thermocline? It is the middle part of the mesolimnion where maximum temperature change is observed. So we'll see it in a diagram also. You have to draw it. So in an aquatic body, this is, we are talking about any water body. So here the thermal stratification can be clearly observed. We have epilimnion, that is the topmost layer to which the sun rays of maximum intensity they are falling. So here the water gets heated up during the daytime and it is cold at night. Okay. Then we have the hypolimnion. Hypolimnion is a basal layer and here no light radiation is reaching, so here the water remains cold and because of that there is no circulation of water. Then in between these we have mesolimnion. In this diagram you need to make a correction. This layer is mesolimnion and its central part, okay, you can make it dotted or a proper line. It's a central middle portion of mesolimnion that is called thermocline. What is this area? This is the part where maximum temperature change is observed. Where it is present in the center of mesolimnion. So the middle region of mesolimnion where maximum change in temperature is observed, that is called thermocline. Okay, and the base, the floor, you all know that is all made up of mud. Now next definition is thermal constant. What is thermal constant? We know that for plants which whenever they are attaining maturity, for example I am talking about corn, wheat. So the plant when it is getting mature, how much heat units it is absorbing for that maturity. So the number of heat units required by the crop plants before reaching maturity is called thermal constant. Now how to measure that? Before that you should know what is a heat unit. Okay, what is a heat unit? We always observe a difference between plant 0 and the subsequent mean daily temperature. What is plant 0? Plant 0, this is the temperature, minimum temperature required for seed germination. So if I am talking about corn, maize, so it's the minimum temperature at which the corn seeds germinate, that will be called plant 0. Let's suppose I say that because it's a winter crop, so I say let's suppose they germinate at around 4 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this will become plant 0 for maize. Then you will observe the subsequent mean daily temperatures. Mean daily temperature means you will observe the 24-hour period of day 1 and you will find out its mean temperature. Let's suppose it remained 15. Then for day 2 you will observe the mean temperature, let's suppose it was 16. Okay, and so on. So you will observe the difference between these. The difference between these two, when calculated, it has to be in Fahrenheit scale. Then that is corresponding to the heat units. Okay, clear? So now you can find out the heat units required. For example, in a day, let's suppose I am saying that 15 is the mean temperature and 4 was the one which is required for, which is plant 0 for maize. It's a hypothetical example. So obviously heat units, that will become 11. Okay, so how many days are required when the plant will attain maturity? That period, that number of heat units, that will be called the thermal constant. So for maize, it has been found that it is 1600 to 1800 units. So you can yourself observe if for a day I am saying 11, so it will be approximately 150 days required for maturity, right? If I am saying that for a day the heat unit comes out to be 16, then for 1600, within 100 days the crop is going to get mature. So you can have an idea. Similarly, it has been observed for American cotton, and there the 1900 units, heat units, they are required for maturity of the plant. This is how the daytime that in how many months or days the crop will mature, that is estimated. Okay, now we are going to observe the effect of low and high temperature on plants. Okay, and what plants do for that, how they adapt themselves for the low temperature and high temperature environmental conditions. So the first one is effect of low temperature. You all know the temperature during winters falls a lot. Sometimes it reaches 0 degrees, and especially in the Arctic areas or in the temperate areas, it can go beyond 0 as well. But plants are surviving there. So how the plants are surviving, that will be the adaptation part. But what effect the low temperature has on plants, that we will study under impact. So the low temperature, it favors nitrogen fixation, and it always increase carbohydrate reserves in plants. So it is favorable for nitrogen fixation. Then it limits the uptake of water. Why? Because low temperature, so the viscosity of water will increase, because of which, and overall since the cells, they contain abundant water, and when the viscosity is increasing, the metabolic activity is going to decrease. So overall the uptake or the absorption of water by plant roots decreases. Then what plant option they show, what option they will have, they will become dormant. Why? Because temperature is not favorable for their growth. Then we have certain plants which can grow in such conditions like lichens. They are found at low temperature conditions. There are few algae also which can be seen associated with the ice environment, with the snow environment. Okay, so they can abundantly grow in such habitats. Now, because of the low temperature, the water is going to freeze, and since cells contain lot of water, so ultimately because ice expands, it has more volume as compared to the liquid water, so the cells are going to rupture. Now, in order to avoid that, what plant should do? They should expel extra water from their cells so that they don't rupture. So for that purpose, they increase the solute concentration. Because water is expelled, so overall osmotic concentration of the cell is going to increase, but it has its own implications. What? When the solute concentration increases, the proteins precipitate. And once the protein precipitate within the cells, ultimately the cell is going to die and plant will be dead. Okay, so this is the effect of cold, what is called the frost injury. So you can observe here the cells, see the cells, they are totally damaged cells, ruptured cells. How this happened once again? Because the temperature is low, so the water is freezing, and we know the ice has more volume as compared to the liquid water. So obviously the cells which are having enough abundant water, they are going to rupture. Now, in order to save themselves, plants, they expel extra water, but in turn their osmotic concentration increases. And because of that, the proteins within those cells, certain proteins, not all proteins, they precipitate. And once the protein precipitate, it is going to be a permanent damage for the plant, and ultimately it will die. Okay, this is all called frost injury. But some plants, they have tackled this. How? We have certain cacti. They can grow under such conditions for 36 hours, not more than that. So if the condition prevails any longer, then cactus can also die. Then tropical plants, they are especially very sensitive to low temperatures. Why? Because they are growing under the hot and humid environment, so they are not adapted to low temperature conditions. There are no winters in that area, so they are very sensitive to low temperature. So upon freezing, what happens? You will see that plants, they show the signs of chlorosis. Because of that, when chlorophyll is not there, so photosynthesis will reduce, and many symptoms are going to appear like leaf curling. You can see here. Then premature fruit and flower fall. See, all these are premature fruits. Then you observe dieback of plants. When the apex of plant is going to die, so ultimately whole plant, it will suffer. Okay, so that is called dieback. So all these symptoms are observed at low temperature. But low temperature is a boon also, where generally there are certain plants, you people have studied this phenomena, low temperature treatment requirement before flowering. That is called vernalization. So we have observed in number of plants such treatment is must before flowering. Why? Because due to the cold treatment, the precursor hormone florigen, what we say, a hypothetical name, which is considered as some kind of gibberellin and anthycin. Okay, so these hormones, they are triggered because of cold environment, so they're going to promote flowering. And at the same time, the inhibitor hormone, which is abscisic acid, because of the cold temperature treatment, it falls. So it has a dual advantage for the plants which have to enter the flowering stage. We have one example here, Aquilegia. You can see here the vegetative state, then they were given the cold temperature treatment, and then the flowers, they started blossoming. Then low temperature is favorable for converting biennials into annuals. Biennials means which are going to complete their cycle within 2 seasons. Okay, it is not for years, between 2 seasons. So what happens, for example, I am talking about onions. So in the first season it is going to grow vegetatively, then when the second season comes in the next year, then it is going to flower. Okay, so the life cycle will be complete. Same is true for yale also. Sorry, it's kale, not yale. It is for kale. It's a vegetable used. Then it is there in the beetroot also. So number of plants are there which are biennials, but we have vegetatively important parts of these plants which are used in our diet. So we don't want the reproductive stages. So what we can do, we want their life cycle should be completed earlier. So then we can give them the low temperature treatment. So within the same season they will flower, they will produce seeds and perish. Okay, so in the next season you can sow a new crop. So you don't have to wait for their life cycle to complete. So all those parts in which all those plants in which vegetative parts are important, they may be converted from biennials to annuals via cold temperature treatment. Okay, so that's all for today. So we have covered the effect of low temperature. In the next lecture, we'll discuss the effect of high temperature.